Hey guys, it's Liza here. Welcome back to another video. I'm really excited about our video for today because I get to bring you guys into my workspace. This is where I live and I create. As you guys know who have been following this channel, I've been off of YouTube for a bit because my husband and I just moved. Just in case you're completely new here, my name is Liza Compass and I love making videos about art, music, and my creative journey as a whole. And most of y'all already know that I'm a little weird when it comes to how I create because my art influences my music influences my art. I mean, everything about life and living in general influences the way that I interact with you guys, the way I interact with my environment. My goal for this space was to be able to just let everything flow together. I wanted to be able to easily jump from working on a painting to jotting down some lyrics, or working on another piece of art to playing some chords out on the keyboard behind me. And actually, I think I've done a really good job when it comes to that. So without further ado, let's get started on the tour. Probably the best place to start is right here at my desk. This fingerprint table has been with me for quite some time, and really all it is a giant piece of glass with a fingerprint imprinted onto the other side, but it's quirky and fun and I love it, and honestly I've had this since my college days. I work on everything here. This is where I draw, this is where I write. In fact, this is where a lot of my YouTube videos happen. Every time you guys see me doing a time lapse, guess what? Happens right here. Oftentimes I will cover this table when I'm working on a big art project, especially for time lapses, because obviously transparency can be an issue when it comes to glass top tables. It really just depends what I'm working on. But normally, if you saw any of my Inktober videos from last year, those were all done on this handy little drawing board right here. Now, this little bee that I have on here right now, this is actually left over from a class that I just taught recently online with the Tampa Regional Artists, which is an art guild that I'm a part of here in the Tampa Bay area. And that was fun. I did a Zoom presentation for them and we did this in real time, which was really cool. So I might do something with this. I don't know. If you guys think I should finish this and turn into something, let me know. But he's pretty cute. It'll be. Don't know if you guys can see that, but I think he turned out good. I have some other ideas for some bee-related art. So be sure to check Instagram for that because it's going to be fun. Let's just put it that way. And again, when I'm working on time lapses, I will literally take my drawing board with my paper already on it and I will affix it to the table with painter's tape, usually that I roll up and just put it in the corners on the back, situate it so that way it's not going to move around as the video progresses, because there's nothing worse than having to watch a jumpy time lapse, which is exactly what happens anytime you move something just maybe a little bit this way, a little bit that way, but then you speed it up. Another thing that I use when I do time lapse videos is my lateral tripod arm, which is the most amazing thing. And if you guys want to do any kind of art videos on YouTube and you're wondering how you can kind of up your time-lapse game, definitely look into trying to get one of these. Whenever I use the lateral tripod arm, I will have it set up on the other side of my table facing me, and then the arm comes straight across the table like this. And my camera will actually be able to screw right onto this bit here, and then it just points straight down the entire time. And having it set up this way allows me to film for hours and hours at a time, not having to worry about, you know, did the camera move a little bit, or is the angle gonna be weird, or like I have to get up and go to the bathroom, or oh no, my battery died.
One eternity later.
So yeah, now you guys know about that little secret. Now let's take a look at the rest of the stuff I have on my desk, under my desk, and all the things that I have right at my disposal when I'm creating. most of the time. So here we are on my side of the desk. Now, something that is always really important to me in any kind of creative space is making sure that I always have notebooks around so that I have something to jot down my ideas in and to memorialize them so that I can come back to them later. Or if I'm working on an art piece and I have some great song lyric ideas, they go right in this notebook. Now, usually my notebooks are a little bit of a hodgepodge. They're all over the place. I would actually like to know what you guys might think about me doing a video that goes through some of my notebooks. That actually sounds really terrifying to me, but it's something that I have been considering just because it's interesting to me to be able to see where something starts from sometimes and where it ends up going. So I may not do that in too much of the extreme future, but maybe somewhere down the road we might do something like that. Now, over here in the corner of my desk, we have some really important stuff that I use on a regular basis. This cup over here is filled up with all kinds of goodies. This is actually, it's turned into my inking cup for the most part, if you could put it that way, which is kind of ironic because it's, you know, an octopus mug. I didn't make this, by the way. I bought it from a local artisan shop, and I really wish I still had the artist's name because I absolutely fell in love with this. But it is locally made here in the Tampa area. And yeah, I absolutely love it. I never drink out of it anymore because I don't want anything to happen to it. But it has all of my inking brushes, my pens, my nibs, so I can look at it every day and absolutely adore on it as much as it deserves. So yeah, I have some scissors in here, I have pencils, Sharpies, things that, you know, I need on my desk and readily available. That I have not been drinking, I promise. That's actually for water. I have a few of those. This is actually a cleaner one, which is kind of nice. But I do a lot of watercolor work and also ink drawing, so this comes in really handy because you need to rinse your brushes. So that goes with Josh, and that's it. That's all it's for. And then over here, this is where I keep like some of my clerical stuff sometimes. In this drawer, I have even more notebooks. I mean, guys, literally these are all just filled with ideas and thumbnails and song lyrics, probably dating back from like 2016, I want to say, is when I started really like down this path. And we can talk more about that in a more detailed video later, like how I decided to make this channel and put all this stuff together. We've talked about it a little bit before, but it might be cool to do another video on that. And then I also have, again, lots of paper pads up here, blank paper, notebooks. Down here, same thing. I have some envelopes, some clerical things, some different cool papers that I like to draw on that are loose leaf. Now this guy here, this little blue thingamaboober, this is a spotlight. It's very bright. Oh, look at that! A spotlight on Manny. So yeah, I love this because it has this armature that can move around. And it's just really great for, you know, close-up light. And it's also full spectrum white light, which is really nice about OT lights, which is a really great thing to have if you're an artist, just because you can see all the details that you're working on. You can see every nook and cranny, and you can see it in full spectrum light, which in case you don't know, that's like the same as sunlight, okay? Which is the best kind of light that is said to be painting by and to be creating art by. So yeah, if you don't have reliable sunlight, get an OT light, man. It's good. And this little dude, like, I want to say I got him for like, I actually got him on clearance because they discontinued this color. But I want to say even full price, this is like $40. It's really not bad. And this pad here, obviously if you hit it once, it'll turn off. Hit it again, it'll turn on. But then if I wanted it to be, let's say dimmer. I don't know if you guys can really see that on the camera. But if I hold my finger here, it'll get dim, gradually. And then if I do that again, hold it, it'll also get brighter gradually. You could really see it there. So it's really nice. I can kind of adjust how bright it's going to be. I really love this spotlight. I've used this for years and it hasn't pooped out on me yet, so that's good. And then if we come over here, I have some alcohol markers. These are Blick brand alcohol markers, so basically knockoff Copics, but I'm not really that much into markers. Don't come for me if you love your Copics, but that's not really my forte. I do use them every once in a while though, so I have the Blick alcohol markers. I really like them. And then we have my handy dandy X-Acto pencil sharpener, which I exclusively use for my Prismacolor pencils pretty much. As you can see, it's kind of a battle scene here on the front of all the Prisma innards that have literally splattered down here, which is kind of hilarious to me. And I know what some of y'all are thinking. You're like, oh my gosh, you eat up your pencils. No, I leave them in there for like a second. For like a second and a half, okay? But they do get really, really sharp. It's fast and I like that. So anyway, so that's the top of my desk. And I will admit, usually my desk is laden down with a lot more stuff than it is right now, but I cleaned for y'all, so you're welcome. So if we go down here into this first compartment, all of these bags are all of my drawing tools. I have a bag for colored pencils, I have one for pens, I have one for paint markers, and I have one for like gel pens, and one for miscellaneous things and markers, and oh boy, it's a mess. And before anyone says anything, I have considered coming up with a better system for this, but honestly, I just always come back to my little storage bags and it works, especially when I need to take something on the go and I need to shove it into a bag or a backpack because I'm going to be gone for a few days, or I'm going on like a day trip and I want to take something along with me to draw because I'm bored. If we go on down into this next compartment, all of these are paper pads. Okay, so it's falling down. No. The Leaning Tower of Liza Compass paper. So that's actually a cool thing to talk about. So this roll right over here, I actually have a couple of these rolls hanging around, but this one's open, so it's good to talk about. This has my signature graphic all over it, as you can see. And this is actually the paper that I've been using to cover the backs of my frames with. For a dust cover, which is really cool. This is a wrapping paper that I order from this company in Canada called Jukebox Print, and honestly, I have no complaints. It's so cool, and it's really cool to see the look on people's faces when they buy a piece and they look at the back of the frame. They're like, oh my gosh, it has your signature on it. That's really cool branding. And I'm like, thanks, I try. Anyway, so that's what that's for. I have so many freaking paper pads down here. I have like drawing pads, I have pastel papers, I have different like wet pads, like Arches pads, stuff like that. I mean, I have everything down here. I have black paper, I have tone papers, I have a lot of paper. I am a paper hoarder for sure. And then over here, I just have some of the overspillage of that compartment down there, some mixed media paper and some Arches aquarelle paper, a big pad that I am using right now that I'm really excited about. I love that huge pad. It's 18 by 24 and it's amazing. Pretty much these guys are just too big to fit under there, so yeah, they go there for right now. Now we're on the other side, so this is down under the right hand side of my desk. And here I have a lot of my different inking supplies and some business cards. I'm just kind of chilling out there. I usually try to keep an open box of business cards here, so in case I need to restock them or I need to stuff print bags, I don't have to go like rummaging around for my business cards, so they kind of hang out there. Anyway, yeah, so I have these guys hanging out here because I've actually been using these for a current drawing, which you're going to start seeing a lot more of pretty soon. These are Inktense colored pencils, and they're fun. They're actually kind of similar to a watercolor pencil, but they have like a ink pigment base to them. Oh no, it's opening. It's opening now. Mayday, mayday, abort, abort. Ah! Okay, so that was almost bad, but I think it's because these guys were wanting to show themselves to you. So let's just give them the benefit of that. So these are my Inktense colored pencils, and they're actually really cool. Like I was saying earlier, they work a little bit like a watercolor pencil, meaning that you can put them down dry and then go over them with a wet brush, just with water, to reactivate them, and they act almost kind of like a paint. So instead of looking more like watercolor necessarily, they kind of look more like an ink wash, which I dig. You know me, I love ink drawings, I love colored pencils, so these guys are just like a weird alien hybrid thing of two things that I really love. So I've been playing around with them, getting more comfortable with them, and I like them a lot. So you're probably going to be seeing a lot more of these in the future from me again. Druent, Inktense, much the like, much the appreciate. Those guys are awesome. And again, all of this is ink stuff, so I have some different ink palettes in here, some various swatches of paper that I use to test my inks on, because you guys know me, I like to draw on a lot of different toned papers, which basically means that they're not white, okay? They have some kind of color to them. And not all of your materials are going to act exactly the same, so you have to test it out to see how it's going to do. So those little papers allowed me to do that for my various materials, and I've held on to them because, you know, why the heck not? And now the second box under here is all of my FW inks and some other various inks that I have as well. But if you guys don't already know, FW inks are an acrylic based ink. If you guys watched my Inktober videos at all, anytime I was using some kind of like wet, colorful ink, it was one of these bad boys. So I love them, and they're really cool. They kind of work like a watercolor to some extent, but not really, because they're acrylic based, so they're kind of more like an acrylic paint and also like an ink. I don't know, they're weird, but I like them. I like them a lot. And now last stop on our perusal through my desk is all the extra super boring stuff. So these are all my different bookkeeping binders, my finance binders. This one here, these are all of my financial records from the last couple of years and my different various receipts. I save everything. And then this binder has all of my legal jargon fun stuff in it. So basically this has my operating agreement in it, all the stuff from my LLC, all my founding documents, my meeting minutes that I hold every single month by myself, with myself, just talking about, you know, decisions that I'm making for the company. That sounds kind of crazy to have meetings with yourself, but it's something that you have to do when you're an LLC. And when you have a single member LLC like I do, yeah, you have to do that all the time. And then these last two guys here, the purple binders, these are actually all certificates of authenticity for my original artwork that still needs to be sold. So they stay in here. These two binders come to every single show with me that I do. And when I sell an original, whoever is buying it gets the certificate to take home with them. And of course, one of the things I mentioned at the beginning of this video that was the most important to me as I created the new setup was making sure that I could really easily flow from creative space to creative space without much of a transition to it. In my old studio, my piano was on the other side of the room, and sometimes I felt like I could be getting in other people's way if I had to like run to my keyboard and, you know, pluck something out really quick, like get an idea down. So just the fact that I can be sitting here at my desk working on a piece of art, and then literally my keyboard is right here, that's incredible. That is super, super helpful. So it's been really fun. I've been getting a lot of work done in here, especially since everything's been set up and I've been able to calm down a little bit after all the craziness, and I'm feeling really good about it, guys. I think you guys are really going to enjoy what we're working on here. And then of course I also have my guitar over here. This is actually one of my grandfather's old guitars. I am not a guitarist, so before anybody asks, I'm learning. I'm actually trying to teach myself, but I will say that when you already play the piano and you're trying to teach yourself how to play the guitar, it's kind of confusing. It's very different. I think about chords in a very different way on the keyboard than I do on a guitar. And then that down there is actually my violin. Yeah, you guys heard that right. I play the violin as well. And yeah, it kind of lives back there unless I'm working on something, and that's where all of my instruments stay. That's where they live, okay? And yeah, that's my little corner for writing music. And then of course I have another desk set up that you probably saw earlier that I use to actually produce music, but we're going to talk about this in just a little bit. Okay guys, so next up we're going to walk over to the other side of my studio, and I want to give you guys a look at some of the stuff you won't normally see in my videos, aka my storage corner. So this is a rack that I bought from Home Depot. It's basically just a utility rack. I really love it. As you can see, it is chock full of all kinds of good stuff. So we're gonna start up here at the top and show you guys what I got going on. I definitely had to get a little creative when coming up with storage solutions for this room, but I have to admit, I'm actually really proud of how it turned out. In addition to this utility shelf, you can see I have some bins hanging off the side here. These are actually all super simple. As you can see, they're just attached with zip ties. And I had these in my old studio. They're basically like toy bins you would get for a kid's room. I think I got them at Target. And I basically just have a lot of miscellaneous stuff in here. Paper towels, cleaning supplies, some packing supplies down there at the bottom. This is the corner right behind my door, and as you can see, it just has a lot of miscellaneous stuff in it. This is typically where my lateral tripod arm lives when I'm not using it. And I also have my Liza compass sign sitting up here with my QR code. It just kind of chills out on the wall whenever I'm not at shows. I do take this with me whenever I do events and shows, and I'll hang it in my tent or nearby whatever I'm doing, just so it's easy for people to access all my links. And I don't know, I think it's on brand. I like it. And then coming over here to start going through the shelves, my first shelf is basically all prints and some other tools that I have back there. This box here that says Blick Art Materials on it is full of prints that are already in sleeves, and basically these are the things that are ready to go to shows with me. They're all packaged, they have certificates, they have pricing, and then these black boxes up here are acid-free storage boxes. I get a lot of prints made at one time, and as you guys know, I hand embellish a lot of the prints that I do, so while they're waiting to get work done and get bagged up, that is where they live for safekeeping, and those boxes just keep them safe, they keep them from fading and all that kind of jazz. And then that Staples box up there is filled with certificates of authenticity that I still need to sign and put with some prints. I also have some other random stuff up here. That bag right there is just filled with foam core rectangles. That's actually what I use to back my information cards for the pieces, like what their title is, their price, their medium, all that kind of stuff when I do shows. And then on the rest of the shelf, I just have some miscellaneous tools that I use all the time. I of course have my drill back here. I have the charging dock for the lithium battery for my drill. Way in the back over there, I have a fan that can actually also be powered by this lithium battery. It's pretty awesome. It's super high powered, it's lightweight, and I've been taking it to shows with me because, like I said, it gets really hot in Florida during the summer, especially outside. And then I have an electric staple gun back here, which is what I use for doing canvas stretches and also some other framing stuff. And then if we pivot over here to the wall, you'll see I have all of the attachments and tools that I need for my drill. They're in that green box that's hanging up. I also have a straight edge, a level that also chill on my wall because they're long, they're narrow, they can hang out over there. You'll see I have a closet over there, which we're not gonna talk about her right now because she's a mess. I told you guys, it's an effort for me to clean. I'm sorry, but it is. And then over here on the second shelf, I have a bunch of miscellaneous sprays and different aerosols in the back there. It looks like we have a glass cleaner, we have 3M spray mount, which honestly, I don't even know why I have this. I never use this, but it's there nonetheless. This is where I also keep all my spray varnishes and fixatives. I have some more tools sitting out on the shelf, and then over here is my Go Box. This thing is super important. This is basically my emergency kit whenever I go to shows. I have chargers in here for all of my devices. I have obviously my cash box down there. I have my square reader, all my methods that I use for taking payment at art festivals. I have all of my hanging supplies in here. So I have bungee cords, I have hooks, I even have things like lint rollers, hand sanitizer, all of those things that I might possibly need in a bind. I have glues, I have tapes, I have measuring tape. I have literally everything I could possibly need. So this bad boy is definitely one of the things that if we ever leave it at home for whatever reason, we turn around and go back because we definitely need it. So these next couple of shelves we could probably just call like my extra supplies. Starting on the left over here, I have tons of interesting canvases and surfaces. I have wood panels, I have clayboard, I have interestingly shaped canvases, as you can see. I also have some round canvases on the bottom shelf down here. And then over here on this side, I've stashed just a bunch of extra paints and supplies that I have hanging around. This bottom bin right here is completely filled with acrylic paints. And then up here in this blue bin, I actually have a ton of different watercolors. So I have most of my watercolor palettes that I use on a regular basis. I also have some Liquitex gouache in here, which that stuff is really fun to play with. I've been experimenting with it a bit recently too. And then just stashed up here on the top, I have a really old palette, which honestly, this wooden guy, I don't really even use anymore. These days, I'm more into using glass palettes, which I store in this red palette box down here. It's basically a giant Tupperware for your palettes. It is especially useful when you're using acrylic paints because it can keep your paints wet and usable for days, rather than it just drying out on you, which is kind of amazing. I also have some of my favorite tote bags that are just hanging out on the corner over here. This front one I usually take to shows with me, obviously because it has my art on it. It has Soul Searching printed on it, which is still one of my favorite pieces to this day. But I do still seriously love this bag. It's one of my favorites and I use it all the time. And if you guys want one of these for yourself or something similar, I do have a Redbubble shop. I will leave a link to it in the description box below, so be sure to check that out. And for all of you guys that already support me, thank you so much. I really seriously appreciate it. It's why I can continue to do what I do and to create for a living, so yeah. And then last stop down here on the bottom is where I basically keep all of my miscellaneous packing supplies. So I have just about everything down here, from my bubble mailers to label paper. I have various packing tapes, fragile tapes, some extra business cards, and then I also have some shrink wrap rolls over here, which they can come in really handy. Okay, so now that we've talked about my extra storage, let's move over to where I tend to do a lot of painting nowadays. So this piece up here is something that I've been working on for a while. I actually started it months and months ago, and it kind of went to the wayside a little bit, but I'm about to pick it up here pretty soon. So I have it out here on my desk just so I can look at it and get ready to work on it hopefully next week. Maybe you guys will see it finished. That would be awesome. As you guys know, I do both acrylic and oil painting, so I have a plethora of my favorite brushes sitting out here. I also have some sea sponges, and then this questionable looking bottle is actually a medium that I've mixed up to use with my oil paintings. A lot of artists use different things. My go-to combination is usually about 1 part linseed oil, 1 part Gamsol or turpentine, and then 1 part Galkid or Liquin. And I'd love to do an oil painting video with you guys, and maybe we can go into that a little bit more in a different video because it gets kind of complicated. And then, of course, for cleaning brushes, one of my favorite staples to have on my desk is a silly coil, which, yes, it's just as silly as it sounds. Yeah, I know, that's a lame joke. But if you guys haven't used this before and you're an oil painter, it really is a lifesaver. It saves you a lot of time and a lot of material when it comes to cleaning your brushes and keeping them healthy. And yeah, I really love this little thing. And then over here, you might recognize some of this other stuff from the background of various videos you've already seen. This hot mess of a container is usually what I keep water in when I do my acrylic paintings. It's actually just like a glass vase that I got at the dollar store years ago, and I just really like the shape of it. It's held up really, really well. I put water in this all the time. It's even gotten banged around a bit, and honestly, it is still kicking. And as you can see, it is definitely very well loved, but I love the rim of it because of the shape. I can actually scrape my wet brushes on them to loosen up some of the paint, which I find very helpful when I'm in the middle of a painting. So I tend to just always go back to that one. I also have some brush cleaner over here, some pink soap, and an acrylic extender. This is GAC 100 by Golden. This is something that you can put into especially your heavy body acrylic paints to extend them and increase flow and just make them last a lot longer and go a lot further, which I love, especially when I'm using expensive acrylic paints like Golden. And then speaking of that, if we move up the wall, you guys will see I still have my cork board, well, at least one of them. I love hanging paints from this, and I really wish I had more wall space to put up some more cork boards in here. That is something that I really miss from the old studio. When I think of my ideal art studio, it would have to be something that basically just has tons of windows up everywhere, a lot of natural light, surrounded by nature, and of course a giant wall filled with cork. Just ceiling to floor corkboard. That would make me so incredibly happy. Overall though, I have to say I really do like the way my walls have turned out. This piece over here is kind of fun. This one is called Peeling Good, and it's actually a mixed media between ink and colored pencil. And of course, yes, I did make the frame. It's two-way sequins, which is really fun. That's also a nice stress reliever. It's been really popular with the kids at shows recently, which is always fun. So that's it for my painting desk for right now. It's pretty simple. I do have a larger easel that I can set up whenever I'm working on something larger, and it usually goes over here in this corner, over here by my music desk, really anywhere I have room to put it at the time. But you guys also might be wondering, I wonder where the rest of her stuff is. In these drawers. These drawers are currently filled with all kinds of supplies, and I'd like to give you guys a sneak peek at what those look like. I really do have a lot of stuff in here, so let's just start with the left-hand side on the top. I know that I've mentioned before to you guys that I have a background in custom framing. Well, this is basically my miscellaneous frame supply drawer. I do have a lot of power tools and other miscellaneous tools throughout the shop, but these are all my small things. So I have all my different like hinging tapes here. I have preservation tapes, which basically these are used to seal the inside of frames to keep moisture out and all that kind of cool stuff and leaching from the wooden frames themselves. I also have hanging hardware. I have pliers, I have glass gloves, point drivers, mat cutters. This little thing is actually a handheld mat cutter. It's actually really super annoying to use, but I do have it just in case I need it for a small job for whatever reason. I also always keep white gloves on hand because it's a good idea to wear them when you're working on frames. You really shouldn't handle art with your hands, which I know that I do when I work on it, so it kind of defeats the purpose anyway, but you know, museum quality framer here. I like to have the white gloves around just in case I need them. I also have bump-ons for the backs of my frames, some different mounting corners. I have blades, I have staples for my staple gun, box cutters, tape measures, wire, hardware, screws, hooks and eyes, D-rings, all the kind of stuff that I might possibly need for framing. And then down here, this drawer is just filled with all kinds of random stuff. I have adhesives, I have glue guns, I have some sandpaper back there, some business cards are kind of falling all over the place at the moment. I also have some wood burning stuff, which is kind of super random. I have a couple of wood burners in here with some various attachments. I never use those, but I might in the future. It's just not something that I've really been into. I also have just some other random things in here. Oh, these are cool. So these are actually postcards for an upcoming show that I'm going to be a part of. Likely this video is going to be posted after this show is already over, so if you're local, I'm sorry about that, but I've been posting on Instagram, so it's on y'all if you don't know about it. I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's actually going to be inside. I'm planning on vlogging this video, so you might be seeing that one next week. I'm not really sure exactly what order I'm going to be posting these in yet, but hopefully that will be my next video. But anyway, if I move these out of the way, you'll see I have a lot of other random stuff in here too. I have various polymer clays, some air dry clays in there I think too, some random Crayola crayons that look like ancient. They're like antique Crayolas. They're not really old, but the tin is cute. So I'll hold on to it. And then down here at the bottom on the left, I have, again, a lot of other random stuff. I have the extra sequin fabric and some other fabrics under here that I've also used in some framing jobs. I have various shears, different instruction manuals, pin cushions, lights, batteries, some stretcher bars, all kinds of random stuff. Something I actually haven't talked too much on this channel about yet is the fact that I sew. And I make clothing, I make costumes, and that's something that you're definitely going to be seeing some of moving forward for music videos and such. Now we're going to come over here to the top right, and as you can see, this top drawer is just filled with freaking paint. Now, I try to keep stuff as organized as I possibly can when it comes to all of my paints. These are all oil paints that are in this top drawer, and all of my like nasty, gross oil painting rags. I have a mirror down here. I do use that for reference every once in a while. If I have to look at my face to see like how an eye is shaped, or if I need to look at like my hand or something from a perspective, because you guys know I love incorporating different body parts into a lot of what I do. Sometimes I use reference photos, but honestly a lot of times I reference myself. So the mirror comes in handy for that, for quick reference. And then this is a pickle jar. This one is empty, but I love to use big pickle jars and, you know, big glass jars to put rags and, you know, my gross oil painting stuff in, because obviously you can't just throw that stuff away. You have to take it to hazardous waste. So considering this drawer is all oil paint, what do you guys think the next one is going to be? You guessed it. Acrylic paint. Yay! So this is actually kind of thinned out right now. I have a lot of other acrylics and oils in this little guy over here, but we'll go over him in a minute. A lot of these tubes still even have, you know, the little clips on them because these were on my other cork boards in the old studio. I still need to organize this a little bit and get it looking better, but I do have some varnishes in here and some different mediums and additives for my acrylic paints. I also have a few fluid, liquid acrylics down here, which I actually don't paint with these. I actually fill them in my old Posca pens, and they work really freaking well, so I love doing that. And then last but not least, if we pull out this bottom drawer here, this is really my random crap drawer. One of the most random things is actually a freaking airbrush, which I never use. I probably should, but I have the cleaner down here, which is a very suspicious color at this point. I don't know if I should actually use that. But I also have some compressed air. I have various paints and stuff that I could use for the airbrush. And then we also have some watercolor supplies. I have a couple of Koi watercolor palettes down here, some travel guys. A lot of these are really fun, and I like that they're compact because I can take them with me if I want to just throw something in my purse for a creative outing and go. But in addition to these, I also have my Finetech watercolors over here, which you guys have seen a lot of these in videos recently. I absolutely love them. And some of my other watercolor palettes that I use all the freaking time. And then I also have some various clay boards, some other samples. It looks like there's some gold leaf over there. And I also have some various, fabric paints, pigment powders, all kinds of stuff. So this video is getting kind of long, and I feel like it's turned into me just rambling on about art supplies, so I am gonna try to breeze through the last part of this. But if you guys have any more questions about what any of this stuff is, or if you want me to do a more in-depth video about the supplies I use and why I use them, just let me know in the comments below. And then last, but certainly not least, over in this side of my studio is where all of my music production happens. For any of you out there that produce your own music already, you might think my setup is a little bit on the modest side, and it is, really, but honestly, it's what I have. It's taken me a lot of time and effort to build up to the setup that I currently have, but I am excited to say that I really do have everything I need, so I'm excited to show you guys around a little bit more. If I took the time to go into all of the techno babble that I could just around my gear alone, we would be here probably for another hour. So I don't really want to do that today, but if you guys are interested in something like that, please just let me know because it's definitely something that we could talk about. So my basic gear setup, I have a couple of speakers here, monitors, which I use when I'm in my mixing process. And then of course, whenever I'm working on music, I do need to have my MacBook Pro set up over here. Yes, I do work off of a laptop for mixing my music, which can definitely be a struggle. My computer does not have a big enough hard drive to handle everything that I do, which is where these guys over here in the corner come in handy. As you guys can see, I have a couple of external hard drives over here. These guys have my entire life's work on them pretty much. So whenever I'm working on music, instead of saving all of the working files onto my computer, I actually work on them with the external hard drive plugged in. So without going into too many crazy details, making music takes up a lot of space on your computer. And considering I don't just do that, I also make videos, I do art editing and all kinds of stuff like that. These guys are definitely a lifesaver. This top one is, I believe, 5 terabytes alone, and the bottom one is a single terabyte. This top one has all of my music on it. This one is dedicated just to music production, so if that gives you any kind of idea of what I've been working on. And to go along with my MIDI keyboard, I do have a suspend pedal down here, which is plugged into it. And then if we pivot over here, you can see just some of the things that I have on these shelves underneath my music station. As you guys can see, I have even more notebooks over here. And then these two boxes just have a bunch of random little baubles in them. I have some various cords, some different aux cables, all kinds of stuff in those guys. I actually have another audio interface back in that corner over there. This one up here is a lot nicer, and it's the one that I prefer to use, but I do still have my original $99 Focusrite down there in the bottom corner just in case I need it for whatever reason. And then of course I also have over there in the corner, you can see my Produce Like a Boss swag. Just a shout out to Chris Bradley. I took her class during the pandemic, and if you aren't into music, you may not know who she is, but she has a YouTube channel and she's definitely a up-and-coming person in the music production scene. I've been seeing a lot of her lately on the internet, and I finally took the plunge and just decided to take her class, and I really owe all my skills to her at this point. I know for a fact I would not be where I am right now if it wasn't for her, so thank you, Chris. If I'm famous someday and you're ever watching this, this is because of you. And I really seriously love you, girl, and I appreciate it. Anyway, guys, that's it. That is the end of my studio tour. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to let me know down in the comments below and let me know what more you might want to see on this channel in the future. We are a new and growing channel around here, and I really love feedback on everything that I do so I can tailor this channel more towards you guys going forward. Also, if you haven't already and you're thinking about subscribing to the channel, go ahead and do that. I would really greatly appreciate it. And just in case you guys want to follow along and find out more about me, my art, and the things that I talk about, don't forget to follow me on social media. I am on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon as Liza Compass. All of those are linked down in the description box below. And who knows, maybe I'll do more videos like this in the future. Maybe next time I move, which will hopefully not be soon. I can't do this again. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna stop rambling. I'm going to leave it here. Thank you so much for watching. Keep creating, and I will see you in my next video.